and welcome to the Rouge Rugby podcast. I'm Stu Hardy, joined as always by Derek Brissett. Derek, been an interesting weekend of rugby, but how have you been?
Yeah, man, not too bad. Obviously, yeah, like you said, pretty action-packed weekend, plenty of games. That Saturday was crazy, having 4 MLR games and the Six Nations, and then obviously the madness that seemed to anger everybody on any form of social media. That was Ireland, Italy, which is kind of funny because is that not the same rule that showed up in that Seattle game that Reichert Hadding was like nearly argued his way out of a couple of weeks ago?
I believe it is, but obviously,
I've never heard of
when
this
it's
rule.
On a test level. It's completely different.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've never heard of this rule. Now I've seen it twice in like 2-3 weeks. Kind of crazy. I saw Kieran Crowley send out a tweet that it's like it's saying that the ref handled it properly because it is the rule. It's a bizarre rule, but I wonder if it's going to start some debate on whether or not, as we talked about last episode, it's like maybe we got to adjust some of these rules in rugby because they don't make a whole lot of sense sometimes.
That is true, and we'll be talking about rules and sanctions and the like in a little bit. However, let's move away from the test level and let's get back to MLR, because the first game of the weekend was the Toronto Arrows game, and it was down in the US capital, south of the border. And, maybe didn't start off the best way it could have. DC scored a try, unable to get the conversion. And then for the remaining 65 minutes, Toronto scored 29 unanswered points. So final score, DC 5, Toronto 29. First time this season, Toronto have managed to get the bonus point win, and they will be going into the bye week. Refresh and Boyd now on 2 wins and 2 losses. So, it was a really interesting game. 4 different try scorers would obviously helped. And the immediate response after DC were able to get that try from the driving maul at the line out. Immediately from the restart, the ball gets regathered, goes out wide, and eventually out to Lucas Rumble, who goes over for the first try of the game. And that just basically set the tone for the rest of the match. Derek, what did you think of Toronto's response to that try?
Yeah, like you said, like obviously the response is great. The first 15 minutes of the game, it was the Arrows kind of had a hard time getting anything going, and then obviously kind of ended up with a couple penalties, to put Old Glory in that position to have that maul, and they were able to push it over. I think maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I thought overall, the Arrows' maul defense in this game was fantastic. But this is the only one that they really got beat on. And it kind of capped off an opening 15 minutes where Old Glory looked to be in control of the game. And it's amazing how in the game of rugby sometimes how fast momentum can swing just on one play. And for to be realistic, it's, it really highlights too, how important restarts are for all teams, right? Malcolm puts the kick up, Della Vega beats his man to it, Grat pulls it down, great play by Della Vega. Brodie is able to then get to the ruck, pass to Quattrin. Quattrin makes a nice run, draws in a couple more defenders. And then Brodie goes real quick off the next ruck, which they go Malcolm, Jones. Jones is able to get it out wide to Mirez, Hood, and then back inside to Rumble to finish off the try. Part of that too, though, is Rumble and Cellini when is it when Malcolm has the ball? I think it's when Malcolm has the ball, and Rumble and Cellini both run some really nice lines that draws in the rest of the Old Glory defenders or the forwards that are there anyways. And then Malcolm sends it to Jones instead, which causes Frazier to have to run way in off his wing to attempt to do anything. But obviously it's at this point, it's way too late because the Arrows just the passing is just going to be there. He can't really do much. Somebody gets to Hood eventually, but easy offload for Rumble to score. So like it's a brilliantly well worked try, and just kind of shows how. I think ultimately in this game, one of the big positives when you kind of look at it as a whole is the offense got going, the attack got going a lot. You know, we talk about, you mentioned that it's a bonus point win, right? So 4 tries, which matches their combined total from the previous 3 games, right? So they doubled the try total in one game. There's also 2 tries in this game that got disallowed. One kind of maybe borderline, okay, I can see being disallowed. One that definitely, James ONeil, we'll get to that later, definitely should have counted. But Jones almost scores a try, you know, or actually, I guess after kind of jumping ahead of myself, we got to get the Brodies try first before we get to Jones's. Not quite a try, but yeah, great response from the Arrows. And then honestly, this moment kind of, it turned the tide of the game completely, because it went from the opening 15 minutes being basically dominated by Old Glory to the remaining 65 being owned by Toronto. So big play from De La Vega to set it up. And then obviously everybody involved in Rumball's finish.
Indeed. So we are going to talk about Brody's try, which was, you know, pushing towards the try line, defenders wrapped in, Brody then able to snipe underneath and get the try. However, the main controversy that came about was what was happening off the ball with Jameson Fernandez-Schultz and Lucas Rumble. Now, if you've been on the team's social media or have received the post-match report, you'll know that Fernandez-Schultz, according to TMO, pushed Rumble in the back of the head. And as we all know, when you get pushed in the back of the head, you get a massive black eye. Now, I believe there may have
back of the head with medium force.
Yeah, it's like interesting how you can measure that from a team MMO perspective, but you know, these are the referees, not me. So if you look into the build-up for the try and you take your eye off Brody, a lot like the DC players did, you'll notice Fernandez-Schultz and Rumble in the ruck, and you'll see Fernandez-Schultz basically punch Rumble on the body and what can only be described as the head, as that's how you normally get black eyes. Now, Derek and I were talking before the podcast because we were saying that obviously during the game, this was just brought up as a warning. Fernandez-Schultz later got a yellow card for another offense or repeated offense, but we're bringing up that because MLR now has disciplinary measures, and you can find that on majorleague.rugby, they follow the sanction table used by World Rugby and the offences from World Rugby 9. Again, these links are provided on the MLR website. And we were discussing of what this could be. Now, they have punching or striking with hand, arm, elbow, or shoulder. At the low end, that's a ban of 2 weeks, mid-range of 6 weeks, top end of over 10 weeks, and a max of a year. And looking at the disciplinary measures that have come in so far, these have all had an entry point of mid-range. So you could say that this should be starting at a 6-week match ban for Fernandez-Schultz. However, there is also contact with the eye area. Now, again, the wording behind this is vague. This could be directed towards like eye gouges or stuff like that, or raking across the eye. But contact with the eye area, the mid-range is 8 weeks. Reckless contact with the eye is 12 weeks. And intentional contact with the eye, the mid-range is 18 weeks. But so, again, we're not citing commissioners. Otherwise, we'd be throwing the book at him. 208 weeks, out of the league. Get out of here.
When's the next time USA plays Canada? He's out for that too.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's kind of a bizarre situation, really. Like it was just, it seemed mishandled in the moment. And like, because obviously, so Brody scores the try, which, I mean, another aside, was great work from the Arrows. A lot of like, pick and goes, good work from the forwards to actually, to get down there and to set up the try. But I feel like that's kind of besides the point, because this is obviously the thing we're going to talk about on this play. but like you said, right? The law 9 for the disciplinary issues, it does kind of have a chart that kind of guides it. It is a very vaguely worded chart, though, and I feel like just because they separate punching as its own thing, like that's what it clearly is a punch. I think the other, like, I don't know, I'm reading that as the other things with the eyes are like eye gouging or something. But it seemed to be just like grossly mishandled, like in the when it immediately happened, because like you kind of said, it's when Brody scores, right? Like you can hear, if you go back and watch the game, pull it up on the Rugby Network, just play it. It's not hard to hear. Put your headphones in, maybe, but like there's a couple Arrows players that immediately yelling that Rumpball just got punched in the face, right? And I think even at one point somebody says it's like, yeah, just like look at the face or what, like, you know what I mean, which tells me that obviously his eyes swelled up pretty quick, right? And like, so the thing is like the Arrows are trying to be like they're doing their best to draw attention to this, and then it's when the TMO calls right, and the way it's described was a push to the back of the head with medium force, which is obviously incorrect, right? And I kind of felt like it's like, okay, like the TMO was given the official, like the wrong information, so I get why maybe it didn't pull like the card out instantly there. But it's also like, if you're the TMO, like the referee, like do you not like put 2 and 2 together and be like, hey, like the team was just saying that they felt that somebody on their team was punched in the face, right? And the TMO is telling you to warn a player for pushing on someone's head. Like, do you not kind of combine that? I don't know. I feel like maybe that could have, but to have the game like continue too, and it's just the way the game continued, like Fernanda Schultz was just being an idiot.
Yeah.
This whole game. Right. And like the worst kind of idiot too is obviously Rumball's hurt. He had to leave the game. We don't know how long he's going to be out for, but it was just like, so it's like, kind of being a danger to your opponents. But like, even from like a rugby point of view, he was just a straight up liability to the Old Glory DC in this game. Like he had no positive contribution. He directly hurt his team.
Yeah.
Like he made his team worse the whole game, right? You even kind of look at it, right? Like look at the actual Brody try. Instead of punching Rumball in the face, you could have, I don't know, tackled Brody. You're the closest guy to him next to Stewart. Is true. Like you could have, right? Like next to Stewart, you were the closest guy to him, right? Like instead of punching Rumball in the face, you could have Stewart's kind of there. He's like the first guy off the ruck, but he's way too far away. That's where Brody sees this gap in. And like the guy that would have been on the other side, I don't know, maybe I'm just looking at that play differently. I don't know. But yeah, it seems that, like you could have done that. And then, the very next play, like not even like there's not even a whistle between this where he like gets warned again. He gets tied up with Quattrin right away, like at the end of the next play. Gets tied up with Quattrin. Quattrin probably getting in his face a little bit too for like, you got to stick up for your teammates and stuff, right? So it's nice to see, some guys kind of go over and let Fernanda Schultz know about it. But, and it's like, so he gets a warning again. So he's just piling up warnings. And then in the next half, he's just like, hey, Tommy Della Vega's 40 feet away from the ball, has no impact on this play at all, so I'm just going to push him for no reason. Instead of, again, same thing, like you could have just turned towards Mirez. Like Della Vega's nowhere near the ball, right? And it's like you get the yellow card. Like he could have had like 3 or 4 yellow cards in this game.
Yeah,
whatever. Like it was just, and it's like you kind of look at it and you know what I mean. It's like the tries being scored while he's in the sin bin. Tries being scored while he's punching guys in the face, turnovers being caused while he's doing other stuff. He was a lot like, he was a liability for Old Glory in this game. And obviously, And it's going to be even worse because it's like at the end of the day, he is probably one of Old Glory's better players. And yeah, as you kind of lined out there, like if you throw a punch, right? Like you throw a punch, it's an automatic, like according to World Rugby's thing, you throw a punch 2 weeks. You throw a punch at like labeling things as what do they have it labeled? Let me pull up the World Rugby thing. What do they have it labeled as? The low end, mid range, top end, max, how they word it. I don't know what the definition of a low end punch or a mid range punch or a top end punch would be.
Maybe the same as like low range force, mid force, medium force, force.
I don't know. Like obviously, Brumball's got a pretty big black eye or whatever, but yeah. So it's like I don't know how to do it, but yeah, like let's like he could be out for like who knows how long he could be out for. And it's like, yeah, now you're 0-4 team, and you're like, yeah, you're just like throwing games away because you're being an idiot. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if I was an Old Glory fan, I'd be upset with them. Like, yeah, I'm upset with them as an Arrows fan because you took out one of the best players on the Arrows for the game, and it got missed by the officials, and but
yeah,
it's like I just like kind of looking at it in general, like I said, I don't know, the way I'm looking at it, it's like, hey, instead of punching Rumble in the face, you could have tackled Brodie.
You could have done your job.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, the Arrows scored a try while you were in the bin because you were too dumb to go after the ball.
Yeah.
And then you didn't play very good for the rest of the game either. Like, I don't know. It was just because obviously, I don't know. He was obviously frustrated and making very dumb decisions, and maybe that's why Old Glory's 0-4.
Yeah. Well, now that the match has been and gone, and we've taken time, maybe like the TMO, Emilio Luciano, maybe this can be something to, as a teaching point and something to work on to help identify when these are coming through and any offense of such a physical nature can be identified. Well,
yeah,
we're not even halfway through the first half at this point.
Oh, I know. Well,
actually, no.
We kind of covered a little.
Well, yeah, we're at the 26-minute mark.
Yeah, I was gonna say we went through the laundry list of dumb things that Jameson Fanana Schultz did in this game, but so it took up that's going to take up a chunk of time on the podcast. He did a lot of not so great things. Talked about all the rucks that he lost too.
Well, that's the thing. Just before game too. Right, we need to talk about the third try, which came from captain, the Mike Shepherd special, which when you watch it in real time looks as though may have been a knock on, right? You have Mike Shepherd with his years of experience. He knows just the exact half a second needed to ground that ball and determine that was a try. But that was again,
hold on to it. Just says you have to have downward pressure.
Exactly. But that was again another episode of continued pressure against the Old Glory defense, and eventually just finding the gap and opportunity to go over. And, that's what makes a difference. And then boom.
That was a bit of a crazy play too, right? Because like the Arrows kind of obviously they got that penalty at the 40-minute mark. You can choose to go to post, choose to play. The Arrows obviously chose to play that. And then it was kind of that weird, they were on the goal line and then they got pushed back like 10, 15 meters and then they made their way back. It took like an extra 5 minutes to score the try, but nice to see like the patience and, understanding like the attacking structure and, having some faith in it to like just, hold on to the ball, stay patient and wait for the opportunity to come up.
So that's how we ended the half, DC 5, Toronto 19. And then we get into the second half. And before we mention the try, there's one player that I think really showed his acumen and, proved that he was a necessary signing. And in my opinion, should have been man of the match. The man of the match award did go to Ross Brodie, who was equally deserving. So last week we were talking about a 7-star that's come over to 15s in the form of Brock Webster. But another player that's done that for the Arrows and especially showed his acumen, and the reason why he got signed this week round was Matt Hood, who just had a fantastic game. Excellent on attack, great on defense. I believe he had at least 3 line breaks, and it's fantastic to see. And hopefully by the time the Arrows return to Toronto, fans will be able to see that in person.
Yeah, I thought Hood was great in this game. There's a lot of guys that Hood and Mirez, like I think Hood, Mirez, Webster as a combination in the back three is excellent. And I mean, I think in this game, like Hood obviously had some real big line breaks, and they like it was impressive because it's like Malcolm won the kicking battle in this game. Every kicking exchange, Malcolm won it, but it was also really awesome to see that like Mirez and Hood were able to kind of flip the pitch and control territory with their feet in a different way. Like they would just, there would be the one gap and then they would both be gone for like, picking up like 30, 40 meters at a time. Right. Like you said, Hood had 3 like monster line breaks. He carried for like a ton of meters in this game too. And, like you kind of look at the first try of the game, right? It's Jones sends the ball out wide to Mirez coming through the back. And it's like Mirez and Hood are able to hook up on the wing, right? To eventually lead to run ball scoring. There was plenty of other instances where they kind of did the same thing as they were like, kind of weaving in and out of the Old Glory defense, right? And even like, and even on the defensive side of the ball, I thought Hood was good. He got trucked over by Doug Frazier a couple times, but but the flip side of that though is also, he got trucked over, but Doug Frazier also didn't go anywhere after that.
That is true.
So it's like, hey, you do, you know what I mean? Maybe not going to end up on your highlight reel, but you did your job. And it's like, so I think he was good. I think there's a lot of Arrows players that I thought were excellent in this game. And but why don't we talk about the rest of them? Like after we kind of finish wrapping up all the events of the game, we can go through some, as you said, some man of the match nominees, or kind of pick that together.
Well, I think a definite one for the highlight reel will be Cole Keith's first ever try in MLR.
Beauty.
An absolute beauty. It's going to be confusing in a minute, but let's talk about Cole Keith first and foremost. No one in front of him, perfect gamesmanship, knew he could pick the ball up, run over, get the try. And I know Cole Keith was telling us when we've had him on the podcast of he doesn't want to get the 7-pointers because he wants that 60-second break to get back in position. So, of course, instead of going straight under the post, he goes to the left. He gets that 60 seconds.
I completely forgot about that. But yeah, he did say that when he was on when we were talking about the rule changes last year. Oh my God, that's amazing. I didn't even think about that. So I will admit,
he's a man of his word.
Yeah, I will admit part of that was like, I wonder why he didn't go like under the post. But I guess he called that like a year ago. Yeah, wow, absolutely. Man, I should get I should pull the audio from that again.
The systems that we have in place and things like that. I think that we should definitely be able to expose them out wide. We got some flyers out there, and we'll win that battle up front and hopefully create a bit of space for them to get the pretty ones under the sticks. So
the 7-point pretty much under the sticks.
Yeah, well, I want them. We told them no more 7-pointers. The boys need a little break after we score. We can't.
I was going to ask if that's been a point. It's been Brian Ray of the American Rugby News has been really trying to get that rule disallowed just because of how silly it is.
Yeah, we want
no kick is guaranteed.
Yeah, we were running back, and then all of a sudden the team's sprinting up, getting ready to kick off, and I catch my breath. I'm panting out there. I'm dying, telling Karch to kick the ball away so they can't kick it, and all this stuff. Yeah, I hate that rule. That's the worst rule they could have played.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. Unreal play, man. And you know what? We got to see that speed. That is like why he's faster than Giuseppe Toit. We got to see that speed.
Exactly. Yeah, we got
over that those.
I sit corrected. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Right. He did brag about how good he does in those speed tests. Right. So we got to see it on full display, and apparently he did it at the right time of the game where you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, because apparently you can only do that once a game. Because when James ONeil did the exact same thing, the TMO called it back and said that he was in front of the ball, or his foot was a millimeter out of place, his hair was going in the wrong direction. I don't know what the differentiation was, but for some reason, James ONeil will have to wait at least till another game to get his first try in MLR, which is disappointing, but confusing more than anything.
That's one thing, man. I think, I see like a lot of like the Old Glory fans kind of on their like fan pages and forums and stuff, trying to kind of, I guess, like, do the diagnostic on this team and figure out why they're 0-4 and stuff. Like watching this game, like, I mean, whether that ONeil try counted or not, like you look at Keith's try, no one's covering a ruck. ONeil's non-try, even if it got called back, nobody's covering the ruck. Brodies try, people are punching people in the face instead of covering the ruck, but ultimately nobody's covering the ruck. Right? Even like, you know what I mean? It's like even like Shepard's try finding a gap next to the ruck to score on that too. Right? Like Old Glory did not do well. Just that basic rugby skill of like that basic rugby tactic of like cover the ruck, right? And even like even Keith's comes obviously with Fanana Schultz in the bin, right? But even like you should have, even if you have 12 guys on the field, you should cover that, because that's what's going to happen if you don't cover it in professional rugby. Like,
yeah, because that's the thing. So I don't know who DC's defense coach is, or if they even have a defense coach, because at this point I can't tell the difference. But this has been like the main criticism. Oh, I'm sorry. How many points have they conceded so far this season? Too many.
I was just saying that's a good question. I don't know. How many points have they conceded so far this season? That's an actual thing.
Okay, well, Derek does that math. I mean, but that's the thing. You mean, you look at James O'Neill's non-try, you look at Cole Keith's try, there's a huge gap of not covering the ruck.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, it seems like a big number. Do you want to let the good folks at home know what it is?
182 in 4 games.
Hey, Zeus. Man, but that's the thing. If I'm saying that I don't know who their defense coach is, I can't tell if they have one, and if they are shipping over 45 points a game so far on average.
Yeah, they've allowed 26 tries already.
We're week 4.
Yeah,
and you said I was doom and gloom after week 2.
The only team remotely close to them in any of these categories is the Dallas Jackals.
Yeah. And they're the new kids on the block.
Their points differential is minus 118 already. The Jackal. So yeah.
Yeah.
Like even you're like the 0-3, so it's one less game. The 0-3 Utah. Well, I guess it's one less game, so I'm not gonna read out the Utah and the NOLA stats because they're also clearly not that good, but they've only played 3 games, so it's maybe not a fair comparison. But
exactly, as in you obviously can't win games if you're shipping an average of 45 points a game.
Oh, you can win games. It's very hard to win games doing that.
Well, you can't make the final if you're shipping 45 points a game.
No. Well, yeah, you got to figure out. Well, here's the thing though, too, right? Like you go back the other way, and it's like they only have 64 points. They've only scored, like themselves, they've also only scored like 9 tries, which, I mean, is more than the Arrows, I guess, but it's still like it's not that much.
Yeah, but that's the thing. When it comes to the end of the season, and we're not even getting into like points difference. We're talking about points as a whole. They have gone 4 games. They should have scored at least 4 tries in one game by now. They should have at least one.
Well, they don't. You're getting to the fact that they don't even have a point standing.
Exactly. Yeah, they're pointless.
Yeah, they haven't lost. Yeah, because they're getting killed, right?
Yeah.
But it's like like they're getting killed, and it's like you kind of watch them play, and it's, I don't know. You kind of watch them play, and it's like, you watch the way the Arrows were scoring tries and just where the gaps were opening up, and it's like, like nobody, like O'Neill's try should have counted, even if it doesn't though. Like if you're Old Glory, like looking at your defense, you're like, how do you allow just a try? Like how far out was O'Neill too? Like he was like 35-40 meters out when he scored that, right? Like
I think it was
about the same
literal carbon copy.
Yeah, like about the same as Keith, right? So it's like, how do you allow like props and flankers to just get like a clean like 35-meter like gallop to the try line twice? Even if ONeil's came back, like you shouldn't be happy with. I mean, like you kind of got bailed out by the officials, I guess, but like you know what I mean? Like that's the thing, right? Is this game is kind of the Arrows scored 4 tries, 2 of them were called back, right? Fifth one definitely they should have at least 5.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, it's like I don't know. The defense is porous right now from Old Glory, and it's definitely something that they're gonna have to clean up. I don't know. We'll see how that goes going forward. Let's go back to the Arrows. So we've got through all 4 of the tries. We got through the after in all honesty. So James ONeil scores his try that gets disallowed. The Arrows just I don't know. You're completely dominating the game. Just kind of cruise the rest of the way. Malcolm gets a penalty at the death, right? Walk out 29-5 W. Second win in a row. Third over. Toronto's never lost to Old Glory either. That's another team they've never lost to.
Yeah.
So who you kind of mentioned? We mentioned Brody. Obviously, he won the man of the match. Outstanding. He won the broadcast man of the match. Outstanding game. Did excellent to get a quick ball when he made kicks. The kicks were great. Spencer Jones kind of helped him out a little bit with some really good kick chases too. You know, he is really good at knowing when to make that little dive for the try. It always seems to time that well. You know, I thought he did excellent quick ball when it was needed, really facilitated, kind of really allowed the Arrows to play that wide, expansive attack that we know and love how they play it, right? Like watching a lot of the tries, especially say Rumball's try, right? Ball goes all the way across the field. It's great to see the Arrows attack clicking like that again. Brody facilitated that super well. You already mentioned Matt Hood. Anybody else that you think maybe should have been in that man of the match conversation? Anybody else that stood out to you? I got one more guy that I kind of want to mention. A couple guys I kind of want to.
Okay, I've got another guy in the back that I think has did really well during that game as well, and I think it was stiff competition for a lot of these guys for man of the match. But Gaston Mires again proving he was phenomenal player. Dodging tackles, getting through, making the meters, doing everything you need to do. I mean, this is a guy who knows that he's going to the World Cup next year and is trying to prove that he's going to be in the starting lineup for Uruguay, not only for this year but for the World Cup as well. He was phenomenal and made a massive difference. It was a tough choice by the selectors to pick man of the match this week. I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. I think Jones played really well too. I think we mentioned Mires and Hood did an excellent job of huge line breaks and stuff, and a lot of the times Jones was the guy that got the ball out to them or found them in that spot where they could get that line break. He had some really nice passes. Jones did score a try that was ultimately called back too, and I thought he was great throughout the game. Kyle Bailey, I thought, did really well again. He got that Old Glory, what is it, a whiskey bottle man of the match, opponent of the match award. That's a really cool thing that Old Glory does. I really like that about their
I appreciate
team.
That well.
So he got that. In all honesty, Rumball was excellent before he got taken out of the game too. Had
all those 25 minutes.
He dominated for those 25 minutes though. Yeah. Had all he had a couple. I think he had a breakdown steal or two in that 25 minutes. Obviously scored a try, some other nice runs, nice tackles. Andrew Quatrin putting in another epic shift. He's playing well into the 70th minute now. Huge work rate, making tackles, getting some carries. Delightful to see. Sam Malcolm too I thought was really good. I like there's actually a fun part. It's like after Fernanda Schultz pushes De La Vega to get a get a yellow, the two guys that run up to Fernanda Schultz are Cole Keith and Sam Malcolm, which you know, I don't know, everything Sam Malcolm does I just love. So nice to see him you know, him taking it upon himself to stick up for the boys too. And
I mean, he's vice captain, he should.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no, he's killing it this year. Great to have him back. I mean, I think this is one of those games. Obviously, Shepherd. We got to mention Shepherd too. Somebody. I know I'm forgetting somebody. Shepherd. Huge work rate. The try that he scored, but also, the I mentioned earlier the Arrows maul defense in this game I thought was outstanding. I know that Old Glory scored off one maul, but it's like they were like out of every other lineout that Old Glory had, or every other time they attempted it. Phenomenal. Shepherd had on two different occasions got to the ball around Fernanda Schultz, who couldn't get the ball kind of below his chest to actually be able to conceal it in the maul. Shepherd is able to wrap it up on a couple of occasions. On the occasions that he didn't wrap that up, Cellini got it too. The Arrows stopped like 3 mauls just because they could get to, like, they just by getting to Fernanda Schultz or whoever else they put up. And, you know, like Old Glory kind of tried that play where they have the one jumper, you know, catch it and then toss it down to like somebody else in the line out behind them. And it just never worked. Like they've needed, I feel like maybe they needed to switch it up and go to something else at some point during the game. Because like Shepherd and Cellini got to like almost every single one of them. And yeah, like, I don't know. So great game from Shepherd, good game from Cellini too. One of those games where it's, I mean, you can probably go down the list of all 23 guys, right? Like, there's, you know, obviously some guys stand out, but yeah, there's a lot of candidates that you probably could have gone with that could have been man of the match in this game. They went with Brody. I personally agree with it. I know you said you would have gone Hood, but you know, ultimate team game, right? You need all 23 guys to play well, and all 23 guys did very well in this game. So it was a good all around team effort. Nice W. And now they, judging by social media, they're all you know, heading to some warmer destinations for this bye week now. So hopefully they enjoy it and get rest up a little bit.
Well, they've definitely earned it. But we will now turn our attention to the other Canadian performances in the other teams that were playing this week. And we're going to start up with a game that, I'll be honest, I kind of want to get through pretty quickly. It was Dallas's fixture against New York. Ooh. And as soon as you saw the first scrum, you knew which way this game was going. So
that sums it up. That was a good summary, actually. That was a good summary of the game. I don't know what else you need to say about this.
I said Liam Murray and Mo Abdelmonem were put to the sword throughout this entire game. And when it just turned into a penalty factory, I will say, though, Dallas did realize quickly that their scrum wasn't going to be a tool they could use. So anytime they did get a scrum, they would try and feed the ball in and get it out pretty quickly as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, New York clocked onto that fact and were still able to sometimes get penalties as a result from it. The final score being Dallas 5, New York 41.
Yeah, this was it was just, it's a beatdown, like from
it's painful to watch.
Yeah, really. Typical blowout. Like you said, it's like the scrum was dominant from New York, and pretty much every other facet of the game, New York was dominant into. Andrew Coe scored the early candidate for the best non-try of the year. Nice crossfield kick from Sam Windsor. And unfortunately, Coe just a little, like a meter or so offside from where Windsor actually kicked that. But that was a super nice play. Just, unfortunate that it had to come back. Right call though. And Nawadi got into his first game. Which, I mean, and he played well again. Murray Abdelmonem, I still playing well. Murray doing what he can. Like you said, he got he's in the front row and he got obliterated in the scrum this week, but which is unfortunate. But Ed Fidow had a nice little try celebration that's kind of making its rounds on social media. It's too bad that his try that he celebrated didn't count.
No.
That was you know what though, that the fact that they did this crazy celebration only for that try to get called back was about the only thing that went wrong for New York. So they got a couple other opportunities to celebrate tries throughout the game.
All right. Shall we move on to a more pleasant game, which is literally any of the other 3 games that happened? Okay, so we now go to Seattle for their game against Austin. This was the battle to remain undefeated in both the East and, it appears, MLR as a whole at the moment. And, the visitors had it, really. The final score, Seattle 18, Austin 25, putting a lot of pressure on the seawall. The first team this reach it. Nakai Penny starting as flanker, as he has already for every game this season, doing really well. Reed Watkins coming on as scrum half in the second half. It's really disappointing because Austin didn't use their Canadian player at all. So I think we can stop talking about Austin now and focus.
That made
Seattle.
me. In all honesty, it made me upset because I was hoping Seattle would win, just so we could be like, see what happens when you don't play your Canadians, you lose. But then Austin won. Austin, I think there were some questions on Austin about just because they've obviously were 3-0, but they were also, hadn't
all home games.
Yeah, all home games and all against teams that combined were like 0-9. Right. So. This was a first big test. I mean, Seattle looking like they're in the midst of a turnaround season on their own. Austin had their turnaround season last year, and now I guess Seattle's turn. Very good game though. In the rain, Austin's still able to use some skills. They got the better of Seattle a lot of key areas. So I thought they were better at the breakdown. Seattle kind of started backing off of that a little bit later in the game too. Better at the line out, better, the scrum was all right. And they scored some really nice tries and walked out of Seattle with a win, which, in the first 2 seasons of MLR was a very difficult thing to do. And then, got progressively easier in 2021. And now it seems like it might be a hard place to win again. So good on Austin for going in there and getting it done, setting up a big matchup with their brothers, cousins. What are these teams considered next week? But
cocktail cousins.
All right. Setting up a big tilt next week, though.
All right. So from talking about one Texan team to the final Texan team of this weekend, it was Houston versus San Diego. This was a really close fixture up until San Diego were finally able just to breach it and get that try that just really made the difference. Houston led at the half 20-18, but then it was just 2 penalties and converted try that gave San Diego the win. Houston 20, San Diego 31. Houston had Robbie Povey coming in at the second half. San Diego had Michael Smith for the entirety at flanker. And Thiel and Lloyd did play in the game, but it was only for 2 minutes at the end, by which point, San Diego had already won the match and Houston were trying to get that losing bonus point, pushing for the try line. And then, unfortunately, it was just held. I think they intentionally were trying to not get the ball over the line, especially with so many defenders, but San Diego intentionally pulled them over the line so it would be held up and the game ended. Excellent gamesmanship. I've been talking about gamesmanship a lot this episode, but that's the thing. When you know the rules so well, you know how to twist them to your advantage.
No, yeah, that's definitely one of those things that it is the reality of the new rules, right? It's almost it's advantageous for the defensive team to obviously you'd probably take the ball being held up wherever it is, but probably advantageous a little bit to the defensive team to get the ball held up beyond the line, because then you get the opportunity to clear the lines a little bit. You did mention Thiel and Lloyd kind of coming in late in the game. Great to see Theo back. Obviously kind of missing a lot. Obviously he's missed a lot of time with injury. So kind of nice to see that, he's made his way back and got into an MLR game. And regardless of how many minutes are actually being played, it's nice to see him just make his way back into an MLR lineup. And Lloyd too, for a bit of a different reason, has been away from the MLR for a couple of years. So nice to see him back too. Gets to play on they both get to play in a pretty fun back line with the San Diego Legion there, right? So like, I mean, realistically too, it's like, Josh Steele was the guy that got to replace Ma Nanu. That's kind of cool. He came in for Ma Nanu, which is that's kind of a cool thing. You can tell the grandkids later. I think from a Canadian point of view, story of this game, Michael Smith was phenomenal.
Yeah,
amazing.
No surprise to anyone.
Yeah, amazing work. Yeah, dude. Every time I watch San Diego, I'm like, Michael Smith's amazing. Like, just incredible seeing him get to be like in the back row with like Rob Shaw as the other flanker too. Man, it's so much fun. San Diego's a bit of a fun team to watch, man. And yeah, like Smith was all over the breakdown, making his tackles. Had some decent carries when he got the ball. Just a phenomenal work rate all around. And you can't say much else about his game, man. This kid's gonna be a star, man. Like, I can't wait to get him in more see him in some more Canadian jersey a little bit more often. But like, yeah, just phenomenal game from him, man. I hope that's like that. I know he didn't start the first game, and then there was some injuries, and then he got the start. This is the type of game that I'm hoping keeps him in that sevens jersey for the year. But like, I hope that's the jersey. It's just like, because San Diego kind of did that last year where it's like they didn't really play him, and then he got into a couple games and he stayed there. And I'm just kind of hoping like this is the game that it's like, okay, that seven jersey is Michael Smith's. It's like, it's his. Like, just leave it on him. He was phenomenal. Outstanding performance from Smith in this game.
All right, and we talk now about the final game of the weekend, the only Sunday fixture, Los Angeles Guillotines versus the New England Free Jacks. And there's a lot of Canadian representation here. LA had Sis Duru, Leluali Mackin, Corey Thomas, and Ben Lesage, whilst New England had Foster DeWitt, Josh Larson, Regan O'Gorman, and Jack Reeves. And all those names I mentioned were all starting for their respective sides. And this was another close encounter. New England got the scoring started with a penalty. LA then followed it up with a try, and then another one. And then New England came back and, and then got a penalty to get the lead. And then LA got a try. But it was a really close encounter. So obviously defense had a major part to play, as well as attack as well. I think Ben Lesage did great work in the build-up to his own try, because it was then offloaded and then passed back to him, and he was able to brush off the tackler before scoring. And yet at the same time, especially with how Austin have been, I think it's going to be difficult to pitch for LA next week. I mean, there was definitely some gaps in the play from last year compared to this year. And maybe that star above the Guiltini glass has now become a target on their backs. And
do they have a star above the glass now?
I think they should. Apparently,
I didn't see this. I didn't notice. Did they have a star?
They don't, but I'm saying that they should, and that they should make a lot of money.
They're finally wearing their. I was gonna say they're finally wearing their 2022 jerseys though. That
is true, and. Great work by Ben Mitchell. Fantastic rendition of Celine Dion on social media to show off those new kits, and especially his flowing locks. Just wonderful.
Yeah.
That's it. It was a very close game. Obviously, when you compare it to the first game of the 2021 season, New England have come from strength to strength, and LA have obviously had their coaching departure. They've also had player departures as well, new players coming in as well. Certain key players like DTH Van der Moa still recovering from injury. So
I wonder, like looking at LA last year, LA was one of the only teams that had like a full proper training camp last year. And I think that allowed them to kind of come out the gates guns blazing, especially since there was still a lot of question marks to the team. And then as the season went on, the gap between LA and the other teams closed a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think with having everybody kind of on a little bit more of, I know like preseason games that are played were kind of an uneven number, but like every team got in like a camp at least. Yeah. I think it's just kind of teams are, it's, you know, the gap on LA kind of closed a little bit. But also, you know, you have a year's worth of tape and stuff to kind of look off of what they do. But I think, you know, in this game, I thought they still played well. Obviously, the Free Jacks had their moments in the game too, but you know, Sears Duru did well in the front row, able to draw some penalties at scrum time. Lesage, you kind of mentioned his try too. I guess Lualali Mackin too, part of that front row. You know, so they did well in this game too. Larson, typical Josh Larson self, man. The guy's an animal. It's probably one of the Free Jacks' best players week in and week out. Reeves played.
That is why he's captain.
Yeah, that is why he's captain, man. Yeah, Foster Dewitt, I guess a little bit of a harder time with the scrum in this game, but you know, it happens sometimes. Maybe talk to maybe hopefully had a chat with Justice after the game, and you know, get some pointers, learn some things. But yeah, I think it's you know, a fun game to watch. Cool to see like some of the stuff, like the Giltini is unveiling like a little championship banner. That thing's kind of cool. I do like the number font and stuff on the back of the new jerseys, really cool. The last names on everybody's kits, also nice touch. You know, some aesthetic things that the Giltinis did, just nice little touches, kind of adding to their brand or whatever. It's always kind of fun to see. Even if is there a star on the new one? I don't recall seeing.
No, there isn't. There isn't one.
It's flat out not one.
But I think there should be on every MLR Champions kit. There should be a star above it, because even LA fans were asking about having the star on their jersey.
Yeah.
But you know, I guess it's their decision, and if they don't want to acknowledge that they're the defending champions, well, I guess that's their prerogative.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, exactly, Adam. It's don't change it though. It might take a while for their new ones to show up, as they didn't get the 2022 ones until week 3.
All right, yeah. And okay, so we're going to move away from MLR, but we're going to keep it in North America, because we have a bit of news that has come out this week. That is Rugby Ontario will host the men's under-19 Canadian Rugby Championship. That will take place this year from July 31st to August 6th at the University of Guelph. And that is news that has come through over just the past couple of hours. I'm sure everyone is well aware about the conflict that has been going on in Ukraine and Russia's invasion of it. World Rugby have announced that they have confirmed sporting sanctions for not only Russia, but also Belarus. And that includes the full and immediate suspension of Russia and Belarus from all international rugby and cross-border club rugby activities until further notice, as well as the full and immediate suspension of the Rugby Union of Russia from World Rugby membership until further notice. And if you're wondering why it's just Russia and not Belarus, it's because Belarus isn't a full World Rugby member at this time.
Good.
Yeah, that was my reaction as well.
Yeah.
And we know, we know that in Canada and Ontario, there are Canadians with Ukrainian ancestry, and to those with friends and family, we wish you all the best. We hope that this conflict comes to an end as soon as possible. Okay, so if you are looking to watch any rugby this weekend, well, interestingly enough, it's going to be very difficult for the Arrows, because there's no Six Nations on this weekend, and there's no Arrows game this weekend. So you're going to have to, I don't know, go outside, socialize, and
Batman comes out this weekend.
Nah, it does.
You want to see Batman?
Well, I may.
We got the Arrows don't play, so we have 3 free hours this weekend.
I don't know, but apparently I've discovered I have a girlfriend who wants me to spend time with her. And yeah, I don't either. But
Batman sounds way more fun.
I know Batman sounds fun, but apparently I had an agreement with her. I mean, I didn't even know I was dating at this point, but
You'll understand.
we'll see. However, I have been able to find out that there are some other competitions going on, so don't worry, you can get your rugby fix. On Sportsnet, you will have Premiership and United Rugby Championship games. On TSN, you will get the latest in Super Rugby Pacific. On the Rugby Network, if you are working the night shift, we still have Japan League One, as well as all the other MLR fixtures that are taking place throughout this coming weekend. Speaking of MLR games that are coming this weekend, Derek, we have to make our predictions, and you had a great week last week. Four correct, one wrong, and me not so well. One correct, four wrong, but at least not as bad as the Toonie. They got 0 for 5. Mm-hmm. But we start off with the first game of the weekend is Seattle versus NOLA. Derek, who are you going with?
Oh, I know they're coming off a bye week, but this is Seattle at home, right?
Yeah. Any team that I'd say first is the home team. So Seattle.
Yeah. I don't even care if NOLA's coming off a bye week. Seattle for sure. NOLA hasn't really. NOLA. Okay. I don't think NOLA's slowed too much this year, but.
Okay, I'm going to agree. After coming off a loss, I will go with Seattle. Next up, down in Atlanta, who are also coming off a bye week, they will be hosting Houston. And this is where I'm kind of on the fence. This is one which it seems to be like either or going with. This is the one where I do think coming off a bye week will help. So I'm going to go with Atlanta.
Yeah, taking Atlanta too. I'll take Atlanta too.
Okay, and now we have another team coming off a bye week. It is Utah, and they will be hosting the Dallas Jackals. Derek, who do you have?
Draw.
You're going with
Can I call that? Draw?
You can call that. We do have.
What do I get if I call a draw? What happens?
You'll get another. You'll get another one correct. Yeah, that'll be.
It counts as a win.
Yeah.
Draw. Why not? I got it. Right. Why not?
All right. I'm going to use the same logic to apply again. I am going to go with Utah.
Yeah, Utah's probably the right choice on this one.
Hey, if you get a draw, then well done you. Okay.
I was gonna say the cool betting odds on a draw are insane. If you look at me, if you call a draw and actually like probably you make a decent chunk of change off not betting very much.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have the first round of the Cocktail Classic for 2022. The Austin Gilgronis versus the LA Giltinis down at the Circuit of the Americas at Bold Stadium.
Who you taking?
I'm going to go with the home team again. I'm going with Austin. They're the guys that are on fire at the moment. Literally. I mean, have you seen their kits? Amazing.
I will never bet against Ben Lesage in my life. LA.
Fair enough.
Except for that one time where he played the Arrows, and then I did pick the Arrows, and then
your devotion was to the Canadians.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I understand.
Yeah, exactly. Austin has no Canadians, so I want to see.
Austin has one Canadian.
Has one Canadian, but they don't play him. So I want to. LA with the a lot of Canadians. I'll take the a lot of Canadians on the Giltinis.
Okay, now this one is another flip of a coin for me. Speaking of the Toonie,
this is one where you call draw.
I'm not going to call draw. I'm going to pick a team. And that is we are down in Hoboken for New York to host their first game of the season against New England. We have that New York New England rivalry going. Derek, who are you picking?
I think I am gonna go. I'll take the home team on this. I'll take New York only. I don't know if much necessarily separates them, but I'll take New York just because they're at home. That's my logic on this one.
Okay, that's fair. It's a 50-50 kind of game. I think one team could take it. I'm hoping it's going to be another close clash, and whoever loses get the losing bonus point. So, and just to mix it up again, I will go with New England. And final game of the weekend, it is back out west as we see San Diego host DC. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going with San Diego.
Yeah, I think you got to go. You have to go with San Diego. Unfortunately, I think as unfortunate as it may be, I think Old Glory is going to be the team. If you're calling games or you're trying to pick games, they're just going to be the team that you never pick this year. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, until they start doing a winning run, I don't see them being picked for the time being. Well, that's mine and Derek's picks, but if you're looking for the Toonies picks, you can find them on our TikTok account at the Rouge Rugby. In fact, you can find us across all social media platforms at the Rouge Rugby, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast and would like to listen to more, you can find it on Spotify or Anchor FM. And if you like watching us, you can watch more episodes on our YouTube channel, again, at the Rouge Rugby. Now, if you are watching, you'll notice our social media handles underneath us. But if you're listening, you obviously can't see that. So, Derek, where can people find you on social media?
At Receptajet on any platform that you can think of.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is Hardman, spelled at H4RDMAN. That's H4RDMAN. Well, that's it for this episode of the Rouge Rugby. Derek, thank you for joining me. And for those listening and watching, thank you for joining us. We hope you can join us again next time.